Oh hey guys, how are you? So I guess you've come to this video because you're interested in starting your own pug. The first thing I would do is I would get some planning done. Try to find out on your server's Discord if there are any pugs that you can join. It's always good to get experience in other people's pugs before you start your own, because you need to kind of know roughly what you're doing. Although you don't need to know everything, which is quite cool. So let's say you've looked on your server's Discord and there's no pugs for the area you want to go to, so you're going to start your own. Well, you can either put out an announcement and try to get people in beforehand. So for example, you can say at 8 o'clock, we're going to run Karazhan. It'd be really cool if you could sign up now. We need some healers, some DPS, we've got the tanks or whatever. And then you can get people signing up on a sheet or something which you create. Again, I'd create this on perhaps either a public Discord that you're allowed to, or you can create your own Discord if you need to. Or you can use various other websites where you can get people to sign up and also reserve loot. So let's talk about reserve loot. It's entirely optional, but some people actually enjoy reserving loot because they know that if there's an item they really want to get, it's a powerful motivator. I always found it quite fun to reserve loot personally, because when you're thinking about the loot, when you're sort of killing the bosses, and if it's a bit of a boring dungeon like Karazhan, then you can think ahead to that thing that you really want. And if it drops, you're happy as Larry because you know you're going to get it. You don't have to worry too much about someone else getting it at the last minute. The other option is you don't bother with any kind of reserve systems, and anything that drops, you get people to roll on it, and whoever gets the highest roll will be assigned the item. But bear in mind, people typically do main spec over off spec. So this means that, for example, if you're a DPS warrior and you get a really nice DPS weapon, that's gonna take priority over someone who is a tank, for example, who really wants a DPS weapon, because that's obviously off spec for the tank. The other thing you can do is you can do PvE over PvP. So for example, if you want a weapon for use solely in PvP, whereas somebody else wants it as a main weapon for the main game, you can give it to that person who basically will use it every day rather than the person who will just use it occasionally. So these are some options. There's also the +1 system. So if someone wins an item, you basically give them a +1, and that means they can roll on items in the future. But if somebody else rolls on the item and they don't have a +1 or a +2 or a +3, the person with the lowest plus is going to get it. So that kind of discourages people from rolling on items sometimes. So that can be bad, because it can kind of mean you can end up sharding a lot more items. Sharding, if you don't know, if you have a disenchanter, they can shard unwanted items, and it generally gives you a far more valuable gem. If I'm the person running the raid, I'm also a enchanter, so if nobody wants an item, I can disenchant it, and then all I do, I roll with a 10 roll, for example, if there's 10 people in the raid. And to do a roll like that, you simply type /roll, then type in a number such as 10 to get a random number. Cool. So the second thing you're going to want to think about is, what is the raid composition? Now, every raid's going to be different. Some raids, for example, let's talk about Karazhan. Karazhan needs 2 tanks, and 1 can be an off tank, so sort of not as good. It needs 2 healers, and the rest should be DPS, who do the majority of the damage. So that kind of composition is perfect for Karazhan, but you need to really look up what the composition of your raid, and it will basically tell you who you need to do them. It's a lot easier now that the instances have been nerfed, and it is possible to do these in an ordinary pug, because I have. So okay, you've got your loot system sorted, you have your the people you need sorted, what do you do next? Well, you basically start to advertise on Warcraft. So you can either say, look, at 8 o'clock we're gonna go on this raid, sign up now, and you can create some kind of reserve loot system. There are a lot available. I would do some research on that and find one that you like, or to be honest, just copy one that someone else is using. Or else you can just say, look, we're gonna go in, say, 20 minutes, we need I don't know, 4 DPS and we need 2 tanks, for example, and you can basically get people who want to go. The other thing you really need to think about is, when does the instance reset? So, for example, I think Karazhan and most of them at the moment reset on Wednesday night, because it's highly likely that anyone who hasn't gone to Karazhan, who wants to, will join your pug on Wednesday night because they figure, look, I could just go to bed right now or whatever, or else I can go and I can get some awesome stuff in Karazhan and have a good chat with people. They might go and come and join your Karazhan. I've also created a Gruul and Maggie pug, which I thought was great. The really cool thing about Warcraft is nearly everyone is an expert, so you don't have to know everything, because a lot of the people who join the group are going to know a lot, so generally you can kind of crowdsource a lot of stuff. If there's a person who says, for example, what are we going to do about the Paladin assignments, you can say to them, you can kind of delegate. You can say, well, you can do the Paladin assignments and stuff yourself, and I'm sure they'll be happy to, because they probably know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of stuff like that that you can get other people to do for you. The one thing I would hold on to is managing the loot. If you are Master Looter, that obviously means that you can prevent a lot of drama. For example, if you have the normal rolling system and someone rolls need on an item that they don't actually need, which happens very rarely, you can kind of prevent that by sticking on Master Looter. Do some research on the bosses if you haven't done the instance already. For example, Karazhan, the bosses at the moment are all fairly straightforward. There are some mechanics that you need to know. For example, Neverspite, I believe, the bosses. You need to basically have people who will stand in different beams at different times, and you basically need 6 people to kind of alternate between the 3 beams. So that's not that hard, I guess. The tank needs to stand in the red beam. So yeah, just some tactics, because they will come in handy later. Okay, so you're going to get a lot of crazy people sort of whispering you, sort of saying all kinds of nonsense and drama, and, oh, can I bring my friend? Typically, yes, they can bring their friend, unless the raid is full up, then maybe not. If you're having trouble getting enough people signed up, you can ask people if they have any friends in their guild who might want to come along, or if they know anyone else. Generally, most servers are going to have a sort of looking for group tab, or an LFG tab, or perhaps both, so you can obviously advertise in there. And it's very normal for the person hosting the group to do the advertising. Now, there is something you can do in raids which is quite interesting, but it kind of works quite well in my experience, and that is to basically promote everyone to be an assistant. And the advantages are you can get other people to move around the groups to optimize DPS and whatnot, or you can get other people to invite, so you don't have to take on the burden of inviting everyone. Or else you can leave it all in your hands, for example, but then you're going to get people whispering you, can you invite Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, my friend, and you're going to have to type out their name, and then you find out they're not actually online yet, so, oh my god. That kind of stuff happens anyway. Well, I would actually recommend making everyone assist if you want to. Again, the main stuff is you're the king, essentially, or the queen, so you control the loot. Controlling the loot also means you're going to be a bit slower in the raid. Don't expect to be the top DPS or primary tank if you're dealing with the loot all the time. It's better if you play more of a support role. People might get impatient with you if you're slow, but as long as you're like not doing anything too silly, people shouldn't there shouldn't really be a problem. So, for example, if you're doing a Karazhan run, you can run through the loot before you pull the next mob, and make sure that it's all fair and that everyone's sort of happy with the loot. You can also do like a countdown or something when people have rolled on a particular item. Don't be too like uptight, right? Generally, not every pug's gonna work. You might just get really unlucky. You might get some low geared people or people who aren't particularly skilled or whatever, and that can be a bit of a challenge, I guess. But generally, it's my experience that running pugs has been really fun, really rewarding. I should probably mention, I don't think I did mention this, there are partial guild pugs, and then again there are full pugs. So a partial guild pug might have, say, 70% of the guild sort of running, and then they'll sort of top up the raid with extra people, find out what you're doing, what your guild is doing, etc., and sort of go from there. If you guys have any questions about running a pug or anything else, just let me know and I'll try to answer them. I really hope this has been useful. Sorry I can't be more specific about a lot of the resources that you should use, but like I say, just to reiterate, you really need to look at what other people are using in terms of loot reserve systems. The last thing I should probably mention is get everyone on Discord, okay? Because people really enjoy chatting to each other, and groups work so much better when you have a bit of banter and a bit of conversation between people. You can either create your own Discord group, which isn't that difficult to do, or else you can go to your server's Discord. For example, on Pyrewood Village, anyone can go in and they can just use the Discord voice for their group in there. So do whatever you feel is good. But, and I should say, lastly, try to make sure everyone's having fun. As a sort of person running a pug or a guild or whatever it is, you're basically like the game master of a Dungeons and Dragons game. You're kind of there to kind of have fun ultimately, and sometimes it can be painful, you know, if you've killed the same boss like 5 times or 10 times and the boss keeps killing you and you can't quite kill that boss. It can be really difficult, but there's nothing more awesome than, you know, actually making some progress, learning new tactics, discussing what happens when something goes wrong after a boss. So I guess you really are the facilitator. So I guess go out and facilitate, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will speak to you soon.